crush on my brother's best friend.
We're gonna call him Pedro.
One day, my brother and Pedro had a plan to go to the beach together, and then Pedro invited me. And I was like, let me check if I have something to do. I don't. I'm going. I'm gonna go, Pedro. Don't worry.
The night before, I was like, I need to look scandalous. Like, so scandalous.
So I remember I wore this two-piece bathing suit. So long story short, the day came and we went to the beach.
So we get to the water and immediately I go in. I wanted to show him, like, I'm a bra girl. Oh, this is the best part.
So I'm coming out of the water and I'm trying to look like a baddie. Like, I'm trying to walk out all cute, like the hair is wet and everything. And I noticed Pedro was looking at my legs. So I was like, maybe he's trying to shoot his shot. So I went to go tell him something. And I was like, why do you keep looking at me? And he was like, look at your legs. I look at my legs. There's a whole ass piece of poop from the beach water.
Okay, so part 2. So I went and hid in the music room. Dad was in the PTA room, which was close by. Literally started crying because I was so scared and they weren't telling us anything because we were too young. I guess they didn't want to scare us. That didn't work. Once the code red was over, about 30 minutes later, we went to class. I went to go find my dad and make sure he was okay and see if he knew anything, and he didn't. When I got in my classroom, we were all talking about it, and my teacher said that the man just walked in and told them he was looking for one of his teachers from like 15 years back. Huh? They gave us a description of the man, and I realized it was the same man from Dunkin' Donuts. He just walked in my school. I was freaked out because I saw him at Dunkin' Donuts before school started, and I hoped I never saw him again. But a few weeks later, I saw him again multiple times at the same Dunkin' Donuts. He literally just stared at me all the time. So yeah, that's my little story.
This is the reason why girls lie about having a boyfriend when guys try to talk to them. Last week, there was a woman in Harlem, New York, and she was brutally attacked by a man after turning him down. This 31-year-old mother went to go buy a bottle of wine after work. 2 men walked in the store and one of them offered to pay. And she politely declined and said no thank you and that she could pay for it for herself. When she got ready to walk out, the men basically said that she thinks she's better than them. The men followed her out and threatened that what was she going to do about it. So she tried to ignore them and go about her day. Then they chased her across the street, kicking her, and one of the men tried to bite her eye out, but ended up biting her forehead, leaving a deep wound. She was screaming and she just wanted to get her daughter.
Put a finger down if in high school you had a YouTube channel and your whole school knew about it so you weren't embarrassed, and one day when you were sitting in your first period class, a girl came up to you and asked you why you were promoting your YouTube channel in the girls' washroom, and you had no idea what she was talking about, so obviously you ran to the washroom to investigate, and you found that written on the back of every single bathroom stall door was your YouTube channel and comments about how you were so amazing and beautiful and how everyone should subscribe to you. And this was really embarrassing because everyone was accusing you of writing these things, but you weren't. So you wrote a message back and asking this person to stop writing these things, and then the next day you found that they had leaked your personal information and written down your address on the bus that you take to school. So now you're really creeped out and you were scared that someone was stalking you. So you and your friends were determined to figure out who this person was. And the next day when you went to school, you all hid in a different washroom of the school trying to catch this person red-handed. And while you were hiding in the washroom, you noticed that a girl came out without flushing and she was holding a red marker. So you knew that you had caught her red-handed. So you followed her out of the washroom and you and all your friends went up to her and asked her if she was the one that had been writing on the bathroom stall. Like for part 2, it gets so good. And then after you and your friends confront this girl and ask her why she's been writing about you in the bathroom stalls, she still denies it even though you literally just caught her red-handed. So you ask her what her name is in order to report her to the principal, but she gives you a really obviously fake name like Sarah Smith. Luckily, one of your friends ends up recognizing her and pulling up her Facebook profile. So you show her Facebook profile and ask her why she lied about her name if she wasn't guilty for writing in the bathroom stalls. And then she denies that that Facebook profile belongs to her and says it's a catfish account. So then you tell her you're not going to report her to the principal, but she needs to stop this behavior. So she stops writing in the bathroom stalls, but she doesn't stop stalking you. And one night when you're having a sleepover with your cousin gets a phone call from a random blocked number, and she picks up and it's some girl on the other line saying how she's a huge fan of you and your YouTube videos and she wants to know why you haven't posted on your YouTube channel in a month. So you and your cousin find this really creepy and you hang up the phone until you receive a text message from an unknown number sending you to a Twitter account like for part 3. So then you and your cousin click on this Twitter link and it takes you to a Twitter profile dedicated to you, a total fan page titled Mo for President with like 100 reasons why you would make a good president. And you see that some of these tweets are dated back to a year and you get totally freaked out and block this number. And then when you get back to school on Monday, you don't see her and you honestly don't see her for like months. So you end up almost forgetting about this entire incident and forgetting about her until one day she starts riding the school bus with you again. And every day she'll sit one seat closer to you until she's literally sitting right behind you to the point where she can like smell your hair and hear everything that you're saying. But you have no right telling her not to sit beside you on the school bus, so you don't know what to do. And then you start to realize that she actually is eavesdropping on everything that you're saying. So you get so fed up that one day you follow her home from school and you approach her and tell her that if she doesn't stop stalking you, you're going to ring on her doorbell and tell her parents what she's doing. And then she finally leaves you alone.
Story time, Tinder edition. Okay, the story blew up on Twitter like a while ago, but I'm just gonna retell it because it's very informational. So there was this guy and this girl, and they met through Tinder, and then they met up and they went on this date. And they were out at dinner, and then she starts not feeling so well. And then she says, I really need to go home. And he says, yeah, I'll drive you home. And she says, okay. So then they get to her house, and then she starts feeling better. So then she says, do you want to come in for some coffee? And then he says, yeah, sure. So they go inside, they have their coffee, and then she doesn't feel well again. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't feel well again. I think you really need to leave. And he's like, okay. And he leaves. And then she goes to bed, and in the middle of the night, she wakes up, and she hears this noise down in her kitchen. And so she locks her door, and she calls the cop. And the 911 operator is just on the other line saying, can you just stay on the line until the cops get there? And then the cops get there, and they're like, the door is locked. Like, we don't think anyone's inside. And she's like, I promise you, someone's inside my house. I can hear them. She says, you have my permission to break down the door. So she's still up in her room, and then she hears the cops break down the door. And then she hears some wrestling and some fighting. Part 2 coming now. Part 2 of the Tinder story. So then after the cops break down the door, they go upstairs and they knock on her door and they're like, it's okay, we've got the guy, everything's fine. And they say to her, we don't really want you to stay here tonight. We don't think that you should see what he's done. And when I say he, it's the guy that she went on a date with. And she's like, no, I need to see what he's done. So she goes downstairs and she sees her kitchen wrapped all in plastic. And there's a saw and a hammer and a knife. And earlier when he came into her house for coffee, he set his keys down right next to her keys. And so when he left, he picked up both sets of keys. And that is how he got back into her house. And they tested her, like her blood and everything, and she wasn't supposed to wake up because of how many drugs were in her system, because on the date, he drugged her. And then I guess he was just planning on chopping up her body in her own kitchen. I don't know. Stay safe.
So the reason why I'm getting a divorce, because when I woke up, it was my birthday. My wife didn't acknowledge my birthday. My son didn't acknowledge my birthday. I went to work. My co-workers didn't acknowledge my birthday. And my manager called me in and said, Mario. I said, fuck. I get in there and she said, happy birthday. I said, oh, thanks. Then she said, you want to get some lunch? And I was like, okay. And then she was like, you want to go back to my place? And I was like, all right. So I went back to her place and she was like, let me step in my room. I'll be right back. She got back 5 minutes later and my kids, my co-workers, my wife was all there to say happy birthday with a cake. And I was on the couch butt naked.
I was in class on Zoom. I wanted to go to sleep, honestly, because like when I'm tired, I go to sleep. I end up falling asleep and then class ends and everyone starts leaving the class except me, because I was like in a whole other universe at this point. I was dreaming, I was flying. At this point, me and the teacher are alone in the call. This is the best part. Then the teacher starts talking to me and he's like, Samantha, wake up. Samantha, please. Samantha, you have another class. He woke me up, but I was half awake, so I didn't really know what was going on. So I thought it was my brother waking me up, and I straight up yelled. I was like, shut up, you fat booger. And so then I realized, oh shit, I just called my teacher a fat booger. And now he's scheduled to